and maximum sustainability and ultimate optimization at every scale, and that doesn't exist. It's the exact opposite of the monetary system. So one way or another, we're going to move out of this system. And the only question is how much death and destruction is going to occur before we do.
I'd like to answer your question about energy. If we use the geothermal energy of the Earth, volcanic heat, according to geologists and volcanologists, they tell us that there's thousands of years of energy in just the heat of the Earth, forgetting about solar, wind, tidal, thermal differences. Just volcanic energy is enough for thousands of years, that alone. So don't worry about energy shortage.
Well, he wasn't asking about energy. Jock has hearing aids. He doesn't hear very well at a distance. So the other person was asking about energy, but you're fine. He was talking about basically getting people to come together to push towards a resource-based economy.
They will not come together until they lose their houses, their jobs,
probably true,
and lose confidence in the people they elected. Then they're ready for change. You cannot affect people. They don't give a damn about one another. People right now are out to make a buck, gain property, power. Why should a person run for political office? They have nothing to offer. They do it, they want to get their name in the history book. But sane people talk to people, and they do not say things people like to hear. Let me put it this way. When people once believed the Earth was flat, politicians would say, all right, folks, it's a little round, a little flat. Then you get along with more people. But it's the business of science to tell people they're wrong, that what they believe has no basis of fact. Scientists do not speak to win approval, real scientists. In a sane democratic society, if you had a president, which I don't think you would, he'd get up and he'd criticize another country. Then we would invite the prime minister of that country to get up on the air and give his point of view. Then we'd invite the prime minister of Sweden. He says, they're both full of shit. This is how I see it. That's a democracy. When you have religion only on Sunday, it's managed news. You would have all different types of religions, non-religions, atheism, agnosticism, so the public can hear all points of view, and they can turn it on or off. But when you only hear religion on the air on Sundays, it means it's managed.
And I think
do you understand that? Why should a person tell the truth? To tell the truth, I meet people all the time that come up to me and say, I'm a nature lover. Oh, you are? You really are? They say, yes. You mean you like tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, all that's natural? Oh, no. And no one can be a nature lover. There are certain things about nature we like, other things we don't like. So people don't know how to talk. They don't know what they're saying. When a guy says to a girl, I love you, does it mean he wants to get laid? He wants to get married? What does it mean, really? What does love mean? Is there such a thing as love? I don't think so. Because I don't know anybody that loves everything they've ever done in life. There are things you've done that were stupid, backward, you know, great. So sometimes you love yourself, sometimes a little less, sometimes not at all. So if you fall in love with somebody, sometimes you fall out of love. So how do I get into this mess? And sometimes you say, it's great. Love is a fluctuating thing. It's never constant. That's why a girl comes up to me sometimes weeping. So I don't know if I really love my husband. I say, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Do you love yourself all the time? Of course not. If you live with a replica of yourself, how long will you be together?
I just want to say thank you, and also I was wondering what your thoughts were on climate change and how, say, if like the weather became more sporadic, how would you deal with that? Like that immense flexibility that you're going to need with all of your technical structures and all your systems.
Oh, it's so integrated.
Like if you know the weather becomes more sporadic, we have more tornadoes or hurricanes or. Like how are we going to adapt to that? Do you think we're going to be able to adapt to that fast enough, or?
Oh, I can introduce this and maybe Jock can comment on it. The only threats that are real are threats to the whole of humanity. I think that's the first thing to point out. And when it comes to natural disasters or any of the things that we've generated, such as climate destabilization, obviously the resolution comes from a purely scientific protocol. I mean, you know, I could go many different angles in this. What do they do with what they call global warming, which is really a combination of things? What do? They made this cap and trade thing where now corporations can trade permits to pollute for profit. Is that, I mean, who came, I mean, we sit by and we let this happen? I mean, it's the most, they literally took the free market idea of the invisible hand and said, okay, we're going to use the market system to decide how global warming is going to be resolved by letting people trade permits to pollute. And it's just absolutely, it's just beyond comprehension how outrageously insane and unscientific it is, because obviously the destabilization is a technical problem. You find technical solutions and you resolve the source of those solutions. So the answer to your question is actually extremely simple. You simply find the problem and solve it. But when you have a monetary system, you have to go through all these loops and weird backwards things, and you have to deal with the establishments of certain corporations that don't want to, say, hinder their production, like the oil industry, that probably has a big stake in the climate destabilization. You know, it's all these barriers in the financial system of the establishment and the status quo, and that's really the problem. I think if there wasn't that barrier and people thought scientifically and they said, okay, well, here's the problem, we're going to solve it, and boom, they did it, then, you know, that question wouldn't even need to be asked, you know? If there's no resolution, then you work as hard as you can to figure out the resolution. And once you have the resolution, you simply apply it. Why would this species not apply something that would help itself? You know? Only psychotic barriers of the monetary establishment and status quo that limit people, block them off, will allow for such a thing. And that's the paradigm we live in now. So.
I think that's correct. I think that all societies in the world today are established. We don't want established societies. We want emergent societies that are always growing and changing. If you designed a laptop computer and say, that's it, that's the final frontier, you don't know what you're talking about, because they will change. They get smaller, faster, lighter, cheaper in time. Nothing can be frozen. People say, I'm a utopianist. I believe in utopia. I don't. The cities I design will be a straitjacket for the kids of the future. They'll design their own cities. But if you make a statue of me and put it in the city, you hold people back, because things move on, they change. And when you have heroes, watch out. Whenever you have heroes, they're trying to control you to admire people. I'm no better, no worse than anyone else. I've made a lot of stupid things and moves in my life. I've made poor decisions, but it's the poor decisions that help me. For example, I don't look at myself as good or bad. I look at myself in the same way I looked at the Frenchman that made little wings and jumped off the Eiffel Tower, and he died. And his brother-in-law wrote, make wings larger next time. There's no other way to know.